Hello and welcome everybody to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I am Susanna, joining you from Helsinki, Finland, and I will be your host today. And then we have Beth as a tech. I'm a big fan of Buddhism, recovery, and Buddhist recovery. I facilitate both 8-step recovery meetings and mindfulness-based addiction recovery courses here in Finland. I'm a member of the board of the Buddhist Recovery Network and thus hosting today. And thank you for your generosity, Beth, being our host today. And then, of course, warm welcome to our Academy teacher today, offered by Anshin, Devin, Ashwood. And the topic of the teaching will be major recovery, going beyond the self. And I will tell a little bit more about Anshin and the topic later on in just a moment. Okay, so here's the format for the next 60 minutes. First of all, we will have meditation, and then there will be a bit of teaching, and then we will have a session of Q&A. And all of our teachings are given freely, and we are blessed with some amazing teachers like Anshin today, who have experience on the cushion, experience working with body, speech, and mind, experience in the ongoing practice of recovery by the way of Dharma. As we practice the Buddha's teaching of generosity, we invite you to give dana that will be given to support our ongoing Buddhist Recovery Network meetings and to support the teacher. You can give on a one-time or recurring basis using the link that Beth is going to post soon. Screen share will be happen soon. So, and comments don't come to everybody at the moment. Okay. And now we go to the main topic of today. So we have our teaching for January. Anshin Devin Ashwood has trained for many years as a Zen student with Tenshin Reb Anderson, Ingen Breen, and other teachers from San Francisco Zen Center, and worked as a Buddhist Prison Chaplain for 16 years. He has a master's degree in mindfulness from Bangor University and has worked extensively in addiction recovery as a therapist and teacher specializing in mindfulness-based relapse prevention, supervision, and teacher training. He now works as a director and is a Community Dharma Leader at the Gaia House Insight Meditation Retreat Center. And the teaching for today will be major recovery, going beyond the self. Hopefully I pronounce everything correct. You can correct me afterwards, since English is not my first language. In a world where individualism is praised, politicized, and sold, our well-being and recovery can easily be sabotaged by buying into the cult of the individual. Buddhism offers an alternative that helps us to get over ourselves and find happiness in the service of something greater. This talk and discussion will explore how Buddhist teaching and practice can help us understand and honor the interdependent self we are without falling in the self-centered habits that are so harmful to us and those we love. Sounds very interesting. So, Anshin Devin Ashwood, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Susanna. Thank you, Beth. And thank you all for joining. It's so touching that you've all taken some time, if you're, I guess, in the US and this morning, or in Europe or the UK this afternoon. I saw in the participants list a number of friends, and wasn't sorry that I let people know I was doing this as a result. It's really nice to have people here who familiar faces. Thank you so much for joining. So shall we just arrive and settle a little together? And maybe I could offer a bit of guidance for this meditation for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Allow us to just be present with our minds, with our bodies, and ground in this moment. So we begin just by being conscious of your posture, whatever that may be, sitting, lying, standing. Ending with that felt sense in the body. contact with the support beneath us. Noticing the muscles that are holding us in this position. Maybe choosing to make some adjustments if you'd like. Be more open, more upright, more relaxed. Whatever supports us in this moment. Whatever sounds or sensations are present, and just allow them, remind us to come back to this moment, this breath, this posture. Letting go of everything in the world. Returning again and again to this moment. Maybe inviting some curious presence. Maybe tuning into the subtleties of each experience. Dependent arising. Air and the breath. The seat and that posture. Different thoughts, memories, and the circumstances created the conditions for them. Each moment of experience, a relational arising. Each moment of consciousness born out of conditions. Mm. Mm. Trying to get anywhere, trying to be anything. Simply inviting curiosity and presence. Be appreciating each and everyone's effort that brought us here together in this moment. Even tuning into gratitude or goodwill towards all the conditions that allowed us to be here right now. Thank you. And thank you, everyone who has shown up, and particularly thank you those of you who have shown your face. I find it so supportive doing these online talks when I am talking to faces. Yeah, I really enjoy meeting people and talking with people, and it really supports me to really meet you when I see you. So I really appreciate many people feel they're not in a position to share their environment or share their face, but those of you who are able to, thank you. Mm. So this is quite a different experience to last time I spoke on the Buddhist Recovery Network. Um, I think maybe 2 or 3 people showed up last time. That was quite some years ago. It's grown quite a lot. So thank you all for your contribution to this growing movement. Wonderful to see so many people. Yeah, and maybe this is not just about our individual journeys. Maybe this is about our journey as a community, as a recovery community. This growing community supports each and every one of us. And the theme of this talk today, mature recovery, about the maturing of our recovery, is relevant to a maturing movement, because the proposal I'm going to make is that a mature recovery is a recovery that goes beyond an individual recovery. A recovery that is maturing is a recovery that embraces our communal recovery. Just as I believe a Buddhist awakening matures in the realization of our mutual awakening, that when we realize that we're awakening together, that's when our awakening is maturing. So I'm very happy to be with such good friends in this community here. The international community. It's so lovely to have people from all around the world here. And we're all supporting each other in our recovery together by being here. It takes all of us for this event to occur. If any one of us was not here or showed up differently, it would change things. It takes all of us. So I hope I don't ramble too much. I'm going to draw on a number of different threads, political and sociological, ethnographic, Buddhist even, as I go through this journey with you. And if there's something that I say that you feel like you don't agree with, or you've got some question around, you're very welcome to ask a question about it later. And I do hope you'll take part in a bit of a discussion at the end. So I've had my own challenges with addictive behaviours, and still I find Buddhist practice and teaching supports me in meeting cravings, urges, addictive patterning, and one of the frames of Buddhist thought that has really helped me is my responsibility to community. And so I've been very interested in this lately. As Susanna introduced at the beginning, my little blurb about this talk introduced the concept of the cult of the individual. That this isn't a new idea. It was the phrase was coined to refer to how, in the waning of religion in modern Western societies, particularly, the reifying and the importance of the individual self has taken a lot of the place that religion had. Beliefs in oneself have replaced beliefs in a god or a religious cause. We're told to believe in ourselves in our societies, and even this isn't a new idea to the modern world. The hero stories go back to ancient Greece, and I'm sure way beyond that. Even the Buddhist story is told as a sort of a hero story. But the idea of the individual fits very well into a sort of neoliberal capitalist modern society. If we're all striving to achieve, if we're all striving to become better and to be better, then that suits the economic model that we have. So this idea of an individual self that needs to succeed, that's on a journey and they're on their own and they thrive by their own merits, that we're all the hero of our own story, this idea is very powerful and very reinforced by the society that we live in. And we see it again and again. So the early Greek stories, you've got Hercules, more recently like Harry Potter and Katniss Everdeen, all these stories of the hero that forges on through adversity and comes out successful at the end. These are the stories we hear. And we're told we live in a meritocracy, that those who achieve are the ones who achieve because they have the qualities to achieve. Because of their good qualities, they have succeeded. That if you've got what it takes, you can make it. It's all down to us. And it's quite a nice belief if you're Elon Musk and you're the richest person on earth, to think that you got there because of your own good qualities. That's quite a nice belief to have. And so those with the power to spread these beliefs will spread them. And if we buy that, then we share that story that we're all rise or fall on our own merits. There's a self-development industry has thrived on this idea that we can better ourselves. Multi-million-pound industry to be better selves. And I said earlier, I've got a mindfulness degree, and recently I saw an advert for a workshop to improve your mindfulness business. There's a whole mindfulness industry out there where we can sell our business. And this is how to market your mindfulness business. You can market your mindfulness business to help other people to be better themselves. So it's all this kind of I'm going to be better to help other people to be better. And it's, again, it feels like it's kind of buying into an aggrandizement of the self. I think even mindfulness can be something that's sold to tell us that if we're just mindful enough, we could be a better person and develop ourselves and become more mindful people and be better people. And even when I first came to Dharma, to Buddhism, I was inspired by ideas of getting enlightened. I wanted to be free of suffering and get enlightened. And there was this story of the Buddha who'd done that, and he was the hero of that story. And I wanted to follow his journey and become the hero of my story and move from unenlightened, deluded human being to enlightened human being and win. I was going to do that. That's some of my early ideas about Buddhist practice kind of bought into that story of me getting on this journey, going on a journey and becoming like Harry Potter and winning at the end. Of course it's like this. We are hardwired like that to some degree, aren't we? We have genes which want to get passed on. So we want to avoid tigers and we want to get food, and maybe we want to get food over somebody else who doesn't seem so important to get food. And so our genes sort of program us and predispose us to want to succeed. Of course, nothing's wrong here, but it can get out of balance, and we can get into ways of behaving that are selfish and based around the idea of a separate and overly important self that actually don't help that self. We can really harm ourselves through our self-clinging. So if you struggle with not eating salts, fats, sugars, that's because you've got genes which say eat lots of fat, salt, and sugars. These things are quite rare in a primitive society. So our genes say eat them, and so we struggle with these cravings for certain things. It's ordinary, just like wanting to be a better person is somewhat ordinary. It's ordinary human way. And we do need a certain amount of fat, salt, and sugar, just like we need a certain amount of feedback from others that we're an okay human being. These are ordinary things. There's nothing wrong with this process. Unexamined, we can end up causing ourselves and others problems. Maybe a more modern example of how our addictive processes are hijacked for those in recovery might be in addictive screen time, scrolling on social media, how our attention is captured by ideas that buy into who we are. I get an algorithm. There's an algorithm that works out what's going to capture my attention, and I get fed that, and that reinforces my idea of that this is the sort of thing I consume. And there's a self-reinforcement process that goes on with these algorithms in social media, and that has a compulsive pattern to it too, which reinforces an idea of a self. I get the Buddhist memes; they're the ones that are interesting to me. I like this kind of humor. That's the stuff that interests me. And that creates a certain kind of self-clinging. This behavioral psychology is involved in this. There's dopamine's released. There's a whole chemical, biological, genetic component in what's going on. And it's all very normal. It's nothing to try and get rid of. But if we don't pay attention, we can end up getting lost in it. For me, I've actually deleted pretty much all my social media off my mobile phone. I've a friend who works at Gaia House now who did a PhD in transhumanism. This is how humans are becoming more and more cybernetic, more and more interdependent with their phones, so that parts of their brain atrophy the more they use this technology. I myself can't find my way anywhere without a sat nav anymore, because that part of the brain is just atrophied. I use a sat nav too much. I've become very dependent on these things, and I've done it unconsciously, particularly using sat navs. And I want to be conscious about that. So I've removed all the scrolling apps from my phone where I just kind of would scroll to the next thing. I've made some conscious decisions to unhook from things that reinforce through technological algorithms my sense of who I am and capture my attention with that. So there's some conscious things I've chosen to do to unhook from self-perpetuating ideas of who I am. We do these things because we want to be happy. We engage, we eat because we want to be happy. We practice Dharma because we want to be happy. We use mobile devices because we want to be happy. But there's a concept in happiness research called the happiness paradox, which has found that the more you're motivated to be happy, the more you value happiness, and the more you strive for happiness, the more likely you're going to be unhappy. So if you are practicing Dharma to try and be happy, that motivation is likely to be an indicator you're going to be less happy as a result. Happiness doesn't come through chasing happiness. Happiness doesn't come from trying to be happy. Happiness comes from doing real things in the world with people. It's a kind of byproduct of living well. So I could say a bit more about that. But what I want to propose is that happiness is something that happens relationally. And that's on a social level, but it's also, I think, on a very profound existential level. All our experiences are relational. In the meditation we did at the beginning, I was inviting you to notice how the breath and the posture and even thoughts and memories arise relationally. That every experience we have is based on other things. That no experience we have occurs outside of causes and conditions that give rise to the experience. We are a relational being. We're a being that arises in community with other beings, living and non-living beings. How can we be free of, if chasing happiness doesn't make us happy, how can we be free of the suffering that arises from our self-grasping? The Buddha's Four Noble Truths are summarized in a line in Pali. I think it's something like Pancha Upadana Kanda Dukkha. 5 kinds of clinging are suffering. And the 5 kinds of clinging are everything that you can cling to as a self: forms, sensations, perceptions, formations, consciousness. Anything you could think of as yours. When it's clung to, that is the definition of suffering. All of those things arise relationally, and suffering arises when we cling to them because we're trying to grasp a self, a fixed self, and not open to a relational self. Clinging is selfish. That's the definition of self, of this Pancha Upadana Kanda Dukkha. The suffering self arises in the process of clinging to a self, fixing a self that's an individual self. When we meditate, we can open to a self that is relational, that arises dependent on conditions. we can see how our sensations, our thoughts, our feelings, our conduct all arise based on conditions. And that doesn't absolve us of responsibility. The Buddha talked about a middle way. He didn't say everything's based on something else or everything's based on us. It's a co-arising. And we can tune into that co-arising and attend to it and work skillfully with it. There can be an attentional component in this co-arising, or there can be an ignoring of the co-arising, ignorance. And when there's ignoring, when there's ignorance, the self-perpetuating patterns that cause suffering again and again aren't seen, and so they carry on. We make the same mistake again and again. We do what we always did and we get what we always got. But when attention shines on this process, it sees how suffering's created. Oh, that hurts. And then we go in some other way. Something that this is freed up when there's attention to this process. So anyone can win the lottery. Anyone can suddenly become wealthy and famous, and it's conditional. We don't necessarily achieve things through striving. We don't necessarily fail through a failure of striving or through striving in the wrong way. Things are conditional. But taking responsibility is an attentional practice. If we are curious and pay attention to what's arising in this process of suffering, the arising of suffering and the rising of addictive patterns, there is a freedom from the suffering that is caused in that process with that attention, with that responsibility, taking responsibility. So while no one's success or failure is solely down to them, what I'm saying is one of the causes and conditions for success, if you like, is taking responsibility for paying attention, taking responsibility for ethical conduct. And the Buddha offered the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as a refuge for us to go to, as a place where we are free. So they're probably aware, but the Buddha is, in one sense, awakening, the awakened one. The Dharma is the teachings of awakening, the teachings of the awakened one, and the Sangha is the community of awakening, the community of the awakened one. And traditionally, Buddhists, what makes a Buddhist, if you like, is someone who says, that's where I go to for my refuge. And I think of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as awakened reality. All these together make awakened reality, these jewels. The different ways of looking at awakened reality. And we can think of Sangha, which is one of these three gems, as the community of beings who are on this path of awakening. And traditionally, this was the monks in the Theravadan school. But in Mahayana traditions of Buddhism, the Sangha are thought of as, all beings are our Sangha, all beings are our teacher. Our life is based on the arising of all beings. All beings are our community. Can we go for refuge in the appreciation that all beings give us our life in this moment? Our life would be different if any being was different in the universe. Anything that changes anywhere changes me, and vice versa. Everything arises in this dependent way, and we can be conscious in our path to freedom in this process. We can develop a refuge, develop a faith in an awakened practice that includes all beings. And that is an intent. This is something we can intend. I heard recently at I think it was a Bodhi College conference, somebody quote, and I don't know who they were quoting, but they said, There are no favourable winds if you haven't set a course. Unless you know where you're going, there aren't going to be favourable conditions to get there. But knowing where you're going, having an intent, allows conditions to be favourable for that intent to be realised. This isn't about trying to get there. It's not about grasping at something. It's about orienting. That's the direction I'm oriented. I'm not going to get frustrated if I never get there, because it's just an orientation. I'm just turning towards Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I'm just turning towards an awakened reality that includes all beings, and wanting to embrace all beings, wanting to sustain all beings, wanting to be embraced and sustained by all beings, wanting to be part of a community of awakening. You may have heard of the Buddha's the teaching being separated into three baskets, the Tripitaka, one of which is the Patimokkha, the rules of monastic practice. So in the time of the Buddha, many, many monks came to learn from the Buddha, to be the Buddha's students. And they lived together, these monks. And because living together can be challenging, they made, whenever something difficult happened, they made a rule or a training principle to help take care of that thing. So like, don't steal, don't lie. Yeah? And if you're a lay practitioner in many Buddhist traditions, you might take 5 precepts: not killing, not stealing, not lying, not misusing sexuality, and not using intoxicants. Well, in the Patimokkha, there are 227 of these rules if you're a man, and because there's not gender equality, there's 311 if you're a woman. In this early Theravadan tradition, which has survived in Thailand to this day, that's a lot of rules to live together. You know, a lot of things didn't work when Buddhist monks tried to live together, and they had to make an awful lot of rules to help people to live together. But what these rules, you can study them, some of them are fascinating and bizarre and very they give you a lot of insight into how these people were just like people today, and all the same hang-ups and addictions and problems. The fact that they had these training principles meant that there was a container for their practice in community. Committing to these training principles in community helped them to roll down the stream, bumping up against each other, and knock off the sharp edges, so that when they got to the sea, they were well-rounded monks. These training, the Buddha put an awful lot of effort into how monks could train as a community with each other, because the Buddha saw that what allows us to mature as human beings is living harmoniously with other human beings. And if we take an individualistic approach to our path, if we think like I did when I started Dharma practice, I'm going to start here and I'm going to get there and I'm going to do it under my own steam, I'm going to miss out on all the opportunities that embracing community offers. People offering feedback, people saying, are you sure you wanted to say that or do that or appear this way? One of the privileges of working as a director at Gaia House, as I do, is that I get to meet everybody who joins the community to work there. And as part of their induction, I say to everybody who joins that community, you know, if you ever have any feedback for me, please give it to me if you can. And if you can't, give it to somebody else who can give it to me. I want to hear how I appear in this community. And I say that to everybody who joins the community, because my practice is so supported by other people's practice, and I can't see myself as they see me. I require people to tell me how I come across to see how I'm seen by others, and that gives community a really concrete way of being in practice in community and having a wider view. So if we can find communities, whether they're Buddhist communities, whether they're families, they're our work colleagues, 12-step communities, whatever community we can find ourselves in, making friends on the path that we can roll up against, get feedback from, open to, and receive their gifts, allows us to see us as we are seen. Our own view is very partial. It's very hard to see how our recovery is maturing, how our practice is maturing, if we're not in community. So I really encourage people not to do recovery, not to do their path on their own. Be part of a community. Find a community that you can practice with. So we probably need to finish soon, so I'm going to start wrapping up. Yeah, so if you've been in a 12-step program, you'll probably know the 11th step. I kind of paraphrase it in a slightly more Buddhist way to say that, you know, the 11th step is practicing meditation to become intimate with our interconnected self. There's something bigger than us, and it is how we arise in relationship with all beings. And that is free of a separate self. And we can become intimate with that reality through meditation. We can tune in to our moment by moment co-arising with all things by being present to the moment, by not being intoxicated with fantasies and memories and plans and self-ambitions, just by tuning into the moment in our meditation practice, by tuning into the moment in relationship with other people when we're talking to them, being present with other people, we can open to the intimacy with this greater reality which includes all beings. And in doing that, when we see that our life is given life by all beings, it only makes sense to want to serve that. This is the 12th step, right? Having had a spiritual awakening, we take this out and serve all beings. So these last 2 steps of the 12-step program are really what a mature recovery is about. And this is in the Mahayana tradition, the Bodhisattva path and goal is working for the welfare of all beings. One of the 4 Bodhisattva vows: beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to become it. And I quite like, seeing as it's this time of year, to refer to Hote, the kind of Chinese figure who walks around the countryside. Big fat, you know, the fat Buddha figure you see, the big fat Chinese Buddha figure you see, called Hote. He's very much like Santa. You know, he goes around the countryside laughing with a big smile on his face, giving out wish-bestowing gems. This is the an archetype of enlightened existence, one who is just in the world of service to others, being joyful, because that is the best way to be of service to others, to be joyful, to be full of energy, and to see how we are in relationship with all beings. Just as the Buddha spent their entire life after sitting under the Bodhi tree and seeing the morning star, walking around helping other beings. This is our true life together, being of service. So please meditate, be of service, and continue this great community of practice we have together. Thank you so much for being here. And if you have any questions or comments or thoughts or reflections, I think we have some time for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anshin. That was very, very nice to hear. And I really loved your peaceful pace and the silent bits in between, because there was so much wisdom. I've started to write these inspiring things on these little post-it stickers, and I do have quite a few of them here in my hands, so like further reflection. And like Anshin said, now it's time for the Q&A, and you can just raise the virtual hand, or you can wave your hand, or you can type your question to the chat field. And when you type your question, you can send it to everybody or directly to me or to Anshin. And we have until about 5 to, because we have some practicalities at the end. And the room will be open a few minutes after the full hour, just, you know, for you to copy the link. So any questions that you have, please, now it's time for that. Kathleen wrote to the chat, not a question, but gratitude for being here today. Thank you. And I really, I'm grateful also, Anshin, that you came back. It's like 3 people only. And now we had 99 people, at the top, most.
There was a quote I wanted to share while people are thinking, sorry, Jim, if you can hold a moment, which was the 13th century Zen master Dogen. And he said, to carry yourself forward and experience the myriad things is delusion. That myriad things come forward and experience themselves is awakening. So I wanted to fit that in because I thought it was just such a lovely way of expressing what I'm trying to say. Anyway, Jim, you had a comment or question.
One question that was sent to me anonymously. So is it possible or probable that a person who has suffered a stroke can still meditate and complete the 12 steps?
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, if you can hear the Dharma, you can practice. Or if you can, when I say hear, you might be deaf, if you could read the Dharma, if you can see the Dharma, in any way you can see the Dharma, you're accessible to it. And the Buddha talked about, some beings not being able to hear the Dharma, and that's really hard. But if you can hear these teachings, to the degree you can hear these teachings, you can apply them. There's no the Buddha story and Bill and Bob's stories. There's nobody who's not savable. We all have the capacity to do our best, and we all have the capacity to awaken. I don't think there's anybody who can't. So, however limited we are, we work within our limitations. You don't need to have all the to be able to walk. You don't need to be able to see. You don't even need to be able to think in the way other people think. However neurodivergent you are or mentally impaired you are or whatever injuries you've had, if you can hear these teachings, whatever degree you can be present, you can practice. This isn't about getting anywhere, remember. This is not about being some special person in the future. This is about an orientation. As long as you can hear this teaching, you can turn towards presence. You can turn towards opening the heart, opening the mind, letting go of the causes of suffering, paying attention to the causes of suffering. And even if I get dementia and start forgetting these teachings, I pray I'm still devoted to them in some way.
Thank you.
Who knows?
Thank you, Anshin. And Julie, I'm sorry, but the time is up. So we do have to start wrapping up, unfortunately. Your generosity, I'm going to say a few words about Dana. And thank you for Anshin coming here. That was very generous of you to come and give us the teaching. And I noticed that there was also one question in the chat. I don't know how busy you are after this, but if you have time, might be that you want to stay for a couple of minutes and answer the question in the chat and also Julie. So, but this is for everybody. Your generosity can help us to strengthen the recovery community and to grow the academy and can be a practical expression of gratitude and metta. We invite you to practice generosity and to give a dana in support of these teachings, to be shared with our teacher and the Buddhist Recovery Network. And Beth has kindly posted to the chat field a long list of all different kinds of links. So there are the links to podcasts, to videos, and the next BRN Academy event is on Sunday, the 2nd of February with Carol Cano, also a regular teacher, because Anshin, since you came back, you are a regular teacher now as well. And if you come to the Facebook group, if you want to join the Facebook group that BRN is offering, please answer the membership questions to join. And there is the QR code for the dana if you want to use that. If you are in the USA, you can message this Jan 25 to 53555. So that is an easy way for you to give dana for this teaching and also for the academy and for our teacher today. And we also do have a weekly Buddhist recovery meeting. The type of the meeting changes weekly. You can check the schedule on the webpage using the link that is in the chat. And then to wrap up, maybe Beth can remove that for a while so we can do the transference of merits, because that is the interconnectedness, right? We are not doing this for ourselves. We are doing it for the whole universe, for all the sentient beings. So thank you for joining us today. May the merit we have gained go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful. May we all be safe. Thank you. And thank you, Anshin, once again.